2020 is definitely the year of the hyper-naked motorcycle.
Yes.
And a massive contributor to that is Kawasaki's new Zh2. So we've just been talking off camera. I think this is a hyper naked. You think it's a large capacity super naked? What is it?
It's a good question. I don't think anybody has kind of come up with the clear, true definition of what constitutes a hyper naked. But what I would say is, if we were talking top trumps here, and you had your deck of cards and I had mine, and let's say you had the V4 Street Fighter and I had this, you're going to beat me. That bike, like the Brutale 1000RR, makes in excess of 200 horsepower. Now on paper this is 200 PS. I know I'm splitting hairs here, but that's 197-ish horsepower. And I think, and I know we don't want to necessarily labour the point, because the last thing we want to do is come over here and kind of pull the bike apart, especially as it hasn't even been ridden yet by anybody. But this is significantly heavier than the other hyper nakeds that are going to be rolling out for 2020. This bike tips in the scales, I think, fully fueled at 240, 238, 239 kilos, which is quite a lot heavier than the equivalent hyper naked. So
what you're not taking into account though, Mark, is the massive, and I'm talking about massive amount of torque available, and the fact that all of these bikes, certainly in my opinion, are bonkers anyway.
Oh, they're nuts.
You know, so whether you're talking like another 2, 3, 4, 5 horsepower, this bike's got enough power to rip your head clean off. And the torque available, right, and the fact that it's a supercharger, this thing is bonkers. There should not be, I'm sorry, you know, this argument's sake, there should not be this amount of power available on a naked bike, because it's bonkers.
It's, to be honest, it's ludicrous that we're even talking
100 foot-pound of torque.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as your average kind of family hatch, maybe more. And you know, obviously a family hatch weighs 1.5 tons. This weighs a quarter of a ton, or less than.
And sometimes, you know, you put your family in it as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you can put your family in this, but we'll get to that in a minute. I think it is preposterous, though, isn't it, that we're even talking about this idea of hyper naked. You know, if you go back 5 to 10 years, you know, a bike that made 150 horsepower was incredibly high performance, and pretty much in its entirety those were sports bikes and sports bike only. Now we're looking at nakeds.
I rode that Z1000R.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that's a bloody fast bike, and that's got 140.
Yeah, and of course the most significant difference, and we've touched on it briefly, the torque. So the roll-on performance on this bike, you know, I know we talked about how the V4 Street Fighter in top gear at 60 can out-drag a Panigale. I bet you this thing is just, I mean, and yet obviously that...
If you're into that lazy power, and some people are really like that, you know, they're going out for a ride out, whack it into 6th and just overtake anything. Well, this is going to be the tool for you.
And look, we haven't even talked about why, or how rather, that Kawasaki achieve those types of torque figures. This is a supercharger, a forced induction bike, a proper production induction bike for the masses. Now, you know, obviously Kawasaki have been doing this for a while with the H2, with the H2SX, you know, but I think in some respects they're a kind of different market. You know, they're priced at north of 25,000 quid. Morning. You know, this bike, 15 and change. Now there is going to be a ZH2 performance. As yet, we don't know how that's going to be priced, and I'm assuming that'll just have a few more trinkets. But in principle, again, when we talk about hyper nakeds, you know, this is the gateway bike, isn't it? You know, once you've spec'd a Panigale, once you've spec'd a 1290 Super Duke R, and let's not even mention the Brutale 1000RR at 15. Dare I say it? You know, value.
It's great value actually when you consider all that, and it's not like it doesn't come with any spec as well. It comes with a great spec. You know, not only are you getting obviously the engine performance, which we've talked about, but you are getting, you know, show a big piston fork. Really good forks on the front and rear. You know, it's got Brembo M4 calipers. That's a strong
setup.
Strong caliper, and you know, to be fair, you'll need it with that amount of power and weight. You know, but it's still going to stop really well. You just know it will. It comes with a really nice TFT. Actually, I've sort of fiddled around with it.
Also, the switch gear on this is really nice.
Switch gear is really nice.
It has to be.
Comes with cruise control. Comes with traction control.
Yeah.
Comes with a IMU, so you can it can measure your lean angle sensor.
Yeah.
So as standard with the bike, also comes fitted with a quick shifter up and down. I think that's great as standard. You normally have to pay extra for that, or you are having to now. You know, there's quite a lot of stuff as standard. You know, normally you're having to like go up, okay, to the Sport Edition for that. This thing comes as standard with that. Yeah. It's quite impressive.
It is impressive. I mean, the jury's out on this bike. I think one of the things, aside from the fact, and as much as I would say, you know, at 15, it does appear to represent some pretty good value. Still quite a lot of money for a motorbike, isn't it? So I don't want to throw all my eggs in one basket and kind of take a definitive position with it. I think we've got to ride the bike before we discover what it's really all about, because I do think, although it makes monster power, the weight can make a huge difference in terms of the characteristics of the way the bike rides. Is it a sport tourer? Is it a sport bike? You know, Kawasaki are placing it as, I think, as a super naked. That's what the spiel says. And obviously, when you look at all the marketing imagery and stuff, it's on track, it's tipped over. But I do think that they're bridging an interesting gap between, you know, sport tour, but they've got a big selection of sport tours. We're going to talk about the new Z1000 SX as well, that's been updated for this year, aren't we? So really interesting. And of course, what we haven't talked about is the styling.
Well, the way it looks really splits opinion, and you know, when I first, I only actually saw the bike a couple of days ago, basically. Right. Despite having worked all of the shows, you know, you barely get a chance to scratch wherever. But only just got to look at it in the flesh because I saw it in the picture and I thought, God, I don't know how to approach this. Do I come and ride it or bring me harpoon gun? Because it looks like Moby Dick on the pictures. Actually, when you come to look at it in the flesh, it was like, crikey, have they sort of like widened it or something? Because actually in the flesh, it's a lot sleeker, it's a lot sharper in my opinion. And it might not be for everybody, but actually I quite like the way it looks. I'm going to do my best to get the best visuals afterwards that hopefully does it a little bit more justice.
I mean, look, I think there's no doubt that the bike in the flesh is a nicer looking thing than it is when you see it on images. You also have to accept that because of the fact that the bike is a forced induction product, you know, and you've got that big supercharger, the packaging for a bike like this is very, very difficult to do.
Be different because you've got air induction.
You do, and you know what you'll see when you look at the bike in closer details. There is significant sized air intake on the left-hand side of the front of the fairing. And, you know, so you've got to create kind of parity from one side. You know, it's got to have balance. It's got to have reasonable proportion. I mean. Yeah, it will split opinion, this bike. I was really super excited to check this bike out in the flesh, and I've got to be honest, I'm still not sure about what I think about its styling. You know, there's an argument to say it might be a tad fussy, but actually the riding position, the bar position is very, very good. And actually, one of the other things that I really like is it does feel very compact. You know, for a bike that packs 200 horsepower, weighs in at 238 kilos, its proportions are very small. So, you know, and we can talk all we like about weight, can't we? But we also know, having ridden multiple bikes of multiple different weights, you can ride a bike that's 230, 240 kilos, and it's fantastic to ride.
Well, what was your GS?
Yeah, I mean, you're right there at 240, fully, you know, with a bit of fuel in it, easily, and what a brilliant bike to ride. So, you know,
look, at the end of the day, we've both owned and ridden a lot of Kawasaki bikes. They know how to put a motorcycle together.
They do.
And you can kind of approach this thing and just say, yeah, you know, it's going to ride well. They will have engineered it as such that it rides well. But that weight will be. You know, it's not all going to be sat.
No.
Because they know what they're doing.
No. And good. I mean, good tank range as well. I think we're 19 litres.
19 litres, yeah. What we're going to do with that exhaust, Mark? Because it's chunky. It's like it's a bazooka.
Chunky's one way of putting it. Yeah. Chunky's one way. How many of the 238 kilos do you think that exhaust contributes to the weight of the machine as?
At least 200 of them. It's a big unit. I don't know whether to use it as a bench.
You know, look, jokes aside, you don't know how difficult it is to get a bike like this through the Euro 5 emissions test year. I'm assuming, and I could be wrong here, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, please comment about this, because I could quite easily be wrong. It's happened before. But with forced induction, you know, we talked about how pretty some exhausts are, even under this new legislation. But I'm guessing that there has to be a fair amount of clever technology in this silencer to stop it from failing that test.
Well, it's a team of engineers.
That's what it is, isn't it?
You've got a team of engineers
there's
in
six
that.
Japanese guys in there right now, all holding separate filters. It is massive though, isn't it?
No, but look, you know, again, joking aside, it's a really easy fix. You're just going to buy an aftermarket unit, whack it on, and jobs are good.
And you would have to assume, again, that I mean, that is going to contribute a significant amount to the weight of this bike, isn't it?
100%.
It is. But I mean, look, you can use it for so many different things, can't you? If we go into World War III,
well,
like you say, grenade launcher.
You'll probably take it to the scrapyard.
Probably pay for the bike.
So the bike's also fitted with Diablo Rosso 3 tyres. That is a really sports-orientated tyre, and that, it's going to handle really well from the point of view of it being fitted with that. So you're not going to need to worry about, okay, I need to upgrade the tyres. It's going to stick to the ground really well.
Well, look, I mean, we've made a point of I think every time we've spoken about a bike at the NEC this year, we've mentioned what tyre brand on, we've mentioned which tyre.
It's so important.
Well, it's the only part of the bike that actually touches the floor, isn't it? So it is pretty important.
And you've got to be careful when you're putting 200 horsepower into a bike. You know, it's got to stick to the road.
I mean, and incredibly important. And it's nice again. You know, we've looked at KTM, we've looked at everybody's putting on some pretty honky rubber on their bikes, aren't they? They're not scrimping.
No.
You know, they're not giving you some sort of middle of the range. You know, Pirelli Corsas are a very, very good tyre, and that tells you about their intent, doesn't it? As well, it says something in terms of Kawasaki's approach with this bike. So, as always, with a bit of luck and a following wind, we'll get the chance to have a go at this some point in 2020.
Fingers crossed.
So, you guys, you know what to do. Please press the like button if you like what we're doing here. Hit the notification bell, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that as well. And we'll see you for the next one.